Hi everyone, it's Madam Maddox and Yaz, and this is
Hear Me Out.
Long Time No See. We're back at it,
Welcome
and
back.
yes, and hopefully you can hear us a little better. We got these
We've
handy.
got these little handy dandy microphones.
Oh my goodness, we're so fancy.
We are so fancy. Look at us.
All right, so today we're going to talk about ghosting.
Mm-hmm.
This has been brought up many times in various different ways, whatever you want to call it. I call it just
ghosting.
Ghosting or disrespectful.
What did we call it before it was ghosting?
Disrespectful, rude,
dipping,
rude,
dipping.
So I think, we're just going to dive right into this conversation. We're going to make it quick.
Ghosting is one of those things for me that...
Why don't you tell everybody what kind of person you were?
I used to be a ghoster. My name is Yasmin, and I used to be a ghoster. Before ghosting was called ghosting. Mm-hmm. Like, when we were younger in our youth. I'll just leave it at that. Decades and decades ago, when I just didn't feel like talking to anyone anymore or lost interest, I just acted like they didn't exist successfully. So I didn't call. This was before all the social media. This was before blocking. I just would not answer, and I would never be in the same arena. I'd just disappear, and eventually you would get the point that we're no longer seeing each other.
And just pop up.
Nah, I mean, if we cross paths, I'd just be distant. But it was like, you get the point. If I don't talk to you for a month, we don't go together no more.
I find it to be like, me personally, I consider myself to be a fairly good communicator.
That you are.
So
I didn't feel like talking. I tend to have a male paradigm sometimes, and
so even if you are not interested or something's come up, like in several instances, I've gone on dates with people and they went so good, great, and then just like the most random thing, it'll be like something magically happens overnight and it's like, oh, my ex came back in my life, or my baby mama, all of a sudden there's drama there, or whatever. But
I didn't even do that. I just didn't call you back.
But
I just didn't talk to you anymore. We had a great date. Deuces.
It would be like, basically what I'm saying is like, there's always
some caveat, some
random excuse or no excuse at all, and just leave you hanging, where you feel like there was a genuine connection, because the conversation would probably linger a few days after that, and then just complete gone.
Right. So that's old Yasmin. I don't agree with that. I'm just telling you that I used to do that. Do I feel bad about it? Some of it you chalk it up to youth. There's some things I feel bad about.
Buckets of tears over you. Buckets.
Unfortunately, I have been known to be a light switch. This is in my youth. I mean, now I love a lot deeper and harder. But in my youth, I used to be a light switch. That was literally one of my nicknames. It was on and it was off. When that light switch was off, I was done.
I'm fine.
I'm also a Taurus. So when we're over it, we're fucking over it.
Okay, but at the same time, if you're over it,
I didn't feel like talking. I could have communicated better, but I can't change
and this is how I feel. I
could have said, yeah.
We're seeing this more and more, and
I do that now. Nowadays, I give an explanation. I tell people what's happening. I'm very forward. People have a tendency not to accept my truth now that I'm so forward.
And I don't have a problem with that. I would rather
I have to live in my truth. I'm too old anyway.
But I will give you my truth, and at least if you don't believe what I'm saying, that's on you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you tell people. They believe what they want to believe.
But I at least am not leaving you wondering, okay, we had this amazing time. Yeah. How are we're building on this, and then nothing.
Like I said, I don't do that anymore. But in the past, I did it with a high degree of frequency. And it was mainly because I just didn't feel like arguing or having a less than positive conversation with anybody, or something really turned me the fuck off. Sometimes I would be super turned off or icked out or something, and I just didn't want to talk to you anymore, ever.
Yes. And so we actually talked about that even today, like instances where, and this is where I would say I'm a communicator, is if I find something a little bit like, okay, you're checking off a lot of the boxes here, but there's just like one or two things that like, I'm at least going to say, hey.
Right. Which is really nice and sweet and endearing.
Look, I think these qualities are
But
awesome.
20-year-old Yasmin wasn't playing radio on that stuff.
But also, I just think that like it all goes back to some of the other conversations that we had, which is we're in this really fast-paced,
and
instant gratification.
Things come on so hot and heavy, so intensely.
Yeah.
I mean, how many relationships have you had that went from you met and then you were inseparable? Like, then next thing you know, just as quick as it flies in, I don't like you no more.
And I think that it all stems to having so much accessibility to too many people.
Right.
So like the minute someone is not...
But for me, it's not a replacing. Like, it's like as soon as somebody's not...
But knowing that you have other options?
For me, it depends on which Yasmin are we talking about. This Yasmin or that one?
I don't know. You
but
tell me.
For me, it's always my piece is first. So if you're fucking with my piece, then you can get the fuck out.
I agree.
It's not
with
about,
that.
I'm not the type of person to leave somebody for somebody else. That's not how I operate because I feel like that's extremely hurtful. Like It's just, there's almost no recovery. But don't mess with my piece.
I don't think there's anything wrong with, I get it. Like sometimes people click and the moment feels magical and then things happen. But I do think that we're getting further and further away from, and I had this conversation just the other day, and this is why we're talking about it, is that we're getting further and further away from considering other people's feelings.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with if you don't like me. I don't have a problem if you don't want to date me. I personally have a bigger problem with not considering how your actions make other people feel, because that's something
or not telling you.
Yeah, I consciously,
which I get that,
think about,
which is why I talk to people now.
It would make me feel.
Exactly.
So
I don't,
I try to think on that level. My level of, I guess I would say, I'm aware now. I'm definitely awakened, if you will.
Right.
So part of that is like being very self-aware and recognizing that that whole put yourself in my shoes thing. Mm-hmm. So even if it's really uncomfortable and it makes me feel like, oh, I don't want to have to tell, I would.
Yeah, you still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that now too. I'd rather get past all the uncomfortable stuff.
You just say like, cool, you're cool.
Plus, and like I said, I live in my truth. One of the things that I find that's interesting is that in being forthcoming, mm-hmm. in expressing how I feel and where I'm coming from, there's a lot of ways that this can go. There are ways that people jump on board and they're like, okay, I see what you're saying. You also you got to give people their options. Mm-hmm. So say you're presenting, this is how I'm living my life and this is what I want to do right now. Somebody doesn't agree, that's a grown-up. They can do what they want. Mm-hmm. They don't have to ride your train.
Right.
You want to ride my train, then that's fine. The funny thing is that people will when you try to end a relationship, or when you're ending a relationship, in my case, it's often met with argument and lack of acceptance. How you think you're going to keep someone when
I'll change?
When not even that. They're not even saying they'll change. They're arguing whatever you're saying is not going to work for you. I'm establishing my boundaries. So this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. I don't think that we can meet in the middle here. We're just two different people. I appreciate this fellowship. Had a great time. No, that's not normal. Everybody should do this. Well, one way that you're not going to keep me is by telling me that how I feel is invalid. Mm-hmm. People consistently try to argue. I think that that's part of what originally prompted me to start ghosting back in the day. I've gotten past it. It still happens. It's very annoying, let me tell you. But I think that young Yasmin didn't feel like dealing with it because, like, since my teenage breakups, people have been arguing the breakup with me. They didn't want to accept the breakup, or there were some stalking scenarios. And I've dealt with that since I was a teenager. So by the time I hit young adulthood, I was like, you know what? I don't want to talk to that dude. So I'm just going to be out. And I'll be out. And you just will never find me.
I would say in any instance that I have ever just quit communication mm-hmm. altogether, it was because I've already said what I need to say. Right. And if you continue to make it uncomfortable, I'm just going to cut.
Nothing else to say to you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm cutting the communication.
Right.
I don't typically block anybody or do anything like that. If we just stop talking and you want to remain in...
Rarely. I had to block one person in the past year.
Yeah, like that's on you, but
it's insane.
If you make it weird or
one person.
Yeah, but if you make it weird or uncomfortable, mm-hmm. that's when I will Like, all right, look, I've already.
Don't be out of pocket, people.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be crazy.
Yeah, and I think, but for me, when it comes down to the ghosting thing, what I want to say about it, just because I had this like long conversation with somebody who was like truly hurt, and I've actually had it happen to me quite a few times.
Right.
Believe it or not, I don't get it, but
I mean, yeah, people ghost.
The big thing is that I think that if you've even ever been ghosted and it bothered you, well, yeah, it bothers the other person too. So, just having enough respect for people in general and giving them at least, I don't say closure, I say like
respect.
Just the respect that you would want for yourself. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. It just is like, hey, I had a great time. I'm not in the same place or mentality right now. And
if you have open communication, then you don't really even need to ghost. You can just have a conversation like, hey, you guys might feel the exact same way.
Yeah. But I do think it's a lot better than getting into this perpetual habit of being disrespectful and like.
Well, I'm running.
And it's an avoidant habit too.
I have nothing to run from at this point. So, like I said, that was young Yasmin.
I know. And that's where I'm at too.
She was fun too.
There's nowhere
She was faster than me.
You know where to find me. That's the problem. Is like no matter what I do, I'm somewhere that you can
find.
So
let us know what you think. We want to hear your thoughts on ghosting.
Have you been ghosted?
Have you ghosted?
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not the only one that will admit it.
Yeah, and have you? And if you have, why? Are you still doing it? Why do you think that we're getting more into this habit too? Like it's becoming like it's a thing now.
Right.
In today's world. And I think it happens to be more about the instant gratification and it's the same mentality. It's like in with the new, out with the old, very quick gratification. And that means one date with you and I forgot all about you because today's a new day and new possibilities.
Out of sight, out of mind.
All right.
Well, take care. We want to hear your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe, and let us know what you think. Madam Madison, yes.